And yeah, everyone, this is Thermite, and this is the After the Weekly Update updates. The very first link down below is Weekly Shonen Jump. Please check it out. It feels real weird to be saying that so quickly after the last weekly update, or just the last update video in general. But here we are. I don't really have anything else to say, because I didn't want to, I've already said everything I wanted to do in the weekly update in the last video. And I don't want to say anything about, the channel going forward or the series I want to do this week apart from Jump going forward, because I want to save that for the weekly update for this video, for the 10-11 reaction. So this is kind of the odd child out. It's the one where I don't know what to do. Oh, actually, I've never done this before, because I've never really had both of these up at the same time, and I've never really want to put the effort into getting them both. But I do want to compare them. Wait, are these even the correct ones? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Okay, so this is chapter 83 of Actage. This is 84, so it would be this one. I wanted to see, is this in fact a better issue than 929? So let's look at these rankings. I mean, first of all, 929 had more stuff in it in general, because we had One Piece and One Punch Man. Whereas, this week's reaction, or, this reaction, I should say, is, it didn't have One Punch Man. Then again, I'm not the biggest fan of One Punch Man, and this chapter of One Punch Man made me feel weird. I didn't rank it very high, so I don't know if that really helps with the overall ranking of the volume. Secondarily, Actage won, Actage was number 1 in both of these, which is wild. I am generally not the kind of person who ranks Actage very high. I like Actage a lot, and I've said multiple times, after an Actage reaction, I've said something along the lines of, I really like this, but I know it's going to get buried this week, because it does. Actage is a very, not over-the-top series. It is generally over-the-top, in the same way that most shonen series have some level of being over-the-top, just, in some way or another. But it tends to be more low-key than that. It's more grounded. If you don't know about Actage, actually, it's a series about acting. So, it's very real-world, very, the things that people do that are crazy are all, acting things, as opposed to, crazy fire punches and stuff. And while I am the kind of person who enjoys, good storytelling and nuance and whatnot, when it comes to a ranking like this, it's really hard for something like Actage to beat something like a really cool action scene with Asta and Yuno in Black Clover. Or, a crazy invention in Dr. Stone that is oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that in the Stone world. Or, Chainsaw Man tends to be very volatile, actually. That's a bad example. But, there are some series that are just generally really, really, stand out every single week. And I think those can dominate series that are generally really good, but weekly aren't amazing. I'm really surprised that Actage has really hung on and that it's as popular as it is, because it's so unjump-like. Because it doesn't really, make you want to say it was the best thing every single week. But I think one of the reasons why it's been able to survive is, this is also not what I said I was going to do. I was gonna, compare these two volumes, now it's just become me talking about Actage. But, it does fascinate me. It really does. Because, once per arc, really, I'll have a moment in Actage where it's oh wow, this is fantastic, and then it jumps up from being near the bottom of my rankings to near the top, just because it has not even low lows and high highs. It's just it's generally pretty good, and then when it has a high, when it has this big emotional moment, it really shoots up, and I love it. It makes it really interesting, because this is also something I probably would have never noticed if I had just been reading it outside of the confines or the structure of Weekly Shonen Jump. If I was just reading it as, a manga, or just a thing I pick up every once in a while, something I don't do weekly, I probably wouldn't have realized how I feel about Actage. I'd probably just say, okay, it's a good manga, sure, whatever. But it's so interesting compared to everything else. Because, generally, my Livestream series tend to be generally pretty high. Chainsaw Man, it jumps up and down depending on the chapter. But all of these, because they're popular series that other people want me to watch, therefore, that's why they're on the live stream. I mean, not for these 2 weeks, I didn't live stream either of these. But, because they're generally just, solid series, they tend to rank relatively high. I tend to just think of them as just, oh yeah, that's solid, it's good. Whereas something I mean, I guess that's wonky, because also, One Piece, for me, tends to rank pretty low, whereas, We Never Learn Black Clover tends to rank pretty high. So I guess this isn't a good barometer, but my point still stands. There are certain series that tend to rank real high in general because a lot of people like them, a lot of hype has been built into them. There's just this general sense of quality there that isn't in some of the newer series, and it's really interesting to see a series like Actage, which is not something like that, manage to survive and Jump. I know a lot of comedies tend to like rank pretty lowly. Like a lot of people don't really write in and say, "Hey, I like this comedy," but Jump likes to keep a comedy or two in there just because it makes things less lopsided, and because sometimes people like to have the comedy there just as a contrast to everything else they're reading. Like, say, this chapter of Promised Neverland was real dark. I'm gonna cool off with some Psyche Kusuo or something. Um, where was I going with that? Basically, just I think that's fascinating. The rankings otherwise are like relatively similar. Mitama Security and Yozakura Family are ranking real low. Not a big fan of either of them. I like Mitama more than Yozakura Family, actually, which you can see in this week's reaction as opposed to last week's. I think that Yozakura's like, it's interesting enough that I'm still reading it, but I'm probably going to drop it in a couple of chapters. Like, I'm willing to let this arc go on. I'm willing to see if like anything else will happen. It has promise to it, and it's not like I hate it or anything, but just it's not that great. Whereas Mitama Security is, I guess it is doing the thing that people have, like, it's the reason why people have comedies in Jump at all. And when I say people, I mean, like the editorial staff. Like, I like Mitama not because I think it's all that funny, but because I like comparing it to Miyako-chan, which is a much better comedy. If you haven't read it, I talk about Miyako-chan every single week during the Mitama Security reaction. But also because it does contrast so hard against like everything else I'm reading. Like, it kind of just pops in the same way. Like, I really like We Never Learn because I think it's just a good series, but it also works really well within the confines of Jump as just, as this goofy rom-com that is so not actiony, that is so like not like most of the other things in there. I really wish I could read Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs, because like Yuna's also really good, real raunchy, which is not something that I like a lot in like more serious series like Tamaki in Fire Force. I hate her character because I think the raunchiness is badly integrated into the series. Whereas something like, an ecchi series like, even We Never Learn is a little raunchy, a little ecchi. I think that's fine because of the series it is, because you go in expecting that, and because even if you think it's weird, like, they move it around. They give you different types of it. Whereas the character from Fire Force tends to be more like, it's kind of just the same gag every single time. Even if it's, a weirder position or a weirder way of it happening, it's still the same feel, and I don't like it. Anyways, as I've been saying this, I've realized that these rankings are relatively similar, and therefore I can't really say that like, from these rankings which Jump was better. So this was kind of a useless exercise, apart from me just getting to ramble for a bit. I think overall, I probably liked this one more because, like, Yozakura's is kind of like neutral. Mitama is like a +1, so the fact that this Mitama was better than this Mitama makes this better. I also like that this Mitama was not, like, it wasn't the same gag of every Mitama Security chapter of, like, hey, it's a weird spirit. Instead, this one was, hey, Mitama's weird, which is, like, I do like that. I like the idea of a comedy series that gets to jump around and, like, change what the gag is, as opposed to just driving the same gag into the ground every single issue, which is a surprising problem. You'd think that that'd just be common sense of don't do that, but a lot of series do it anyways, and they still exist, so but yeah, like, I liked My Hero more this week. I liked Promised Neverland more, and it doesn't help that, last week I got interrupted halfway through the Promised Neverland, so it kind of lost some of that luster to me. So in terms of pure enjoyment, I guess I have to give it to this issue. It was a fantastic issue. Oh, one last thing actually before I end this. At the start of this issue, I'm pretty sure. I mean, you'll see it when I do the reaction, anyways. But I do want to say it right now in case you're the kind of person who doesn't read the author comments. At the very start, I say, "Oh, look, they've got like film stuff on the cover. That must be because the Promised Neverland anime aired in theaters." I have already seen the stills from the Promised Neverland live action adaptation. I know that exists. I just did not make the connection between the Promised Neverland live action adaptation and this shot of the Promised Neverland crew holding stuff that they would need to have for a live action adaptation. I'm just a silly human being. Anyways, that's Jump. That's my updates. I don't think I updated you on anything. I don't think this was helpful, but it sure is a video. Thank you so much for, again, putting up with me, and I hope to see you at the